Series B.
Oh, so another contain the AI method.
Yeah.
It's great that people are getting ahead of it. So they raised $50 million in a Series B.
Again, I think this is a pretty cool idea for a Twist 500 entry because it grew 300% year over year. And that is the exact pace of growth that gets me very, very excited because if you're raising 50 at a Series B, Jason, I presume you have a pretty reasonable revenue base to be growing from, 300% on top of. So it's probably a pretty impressively stable corporation. And I love to see more Israeli security companies do well.
DSPM technology, data security posture management. So you've got data, you need to keep it secure.
You're plugging it into Notebook LM over here, Claude over here, OpenAI over here. You need to make sure it's not going everywhere, leaking into those.
I need to know about this because I like I said, I bought ChatGPT for everybody, and ChatGPT keeps asking me to connect Google Docs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to click that button. But then I was thinking, well, I got enterprising young folks working for me, researchers and analysts. Maybe they did that already because they're like, oh, I can now ask ChatGPT.
I did do that, but only for my not my launch account, only my personal.
Now, do you worry that it's going to take whatever you got in there, the great American novel or whatever you're writing, fan fiction? Maybe you're doing some spicy fan fiction. I don't know what's going on in your docs.
Spicy fan.
I mean, that's, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey stuff going on in that. I don't know, maybe you're... maybe you're Wattpadding and now
I did because I have some essays in creative writing in my Google Docs, but I don't believe that they're violating our agreement. Like you have to feed the individual doc in. You can't. It's not like learning about me by going through my.
It's not training
Google
or doing reinforcement.
No, I think you can do that, but no, I'm loading in individual Google Docs.
Okay, fair enough.
So I'm not loading in stuff I don't want.
I want all this to occur on the desktop. My understanding is these Microsoft, I was listening to Leo Laporte this weekend on This Week in Tech, and they were talking about these Microsoft laptops that were, kind of AI ready. I think Copilot is what they call it, is how they're branding it. And you have it, he said, because it has a Copilot key. Just like they had the Windows Star key, they have a Copilot key now. What they're doing, and he wants it to record everything his computer does so that you can say stuff like, last week I was like buying some razors, but I can't remember the name of it. Can you tell me like what brand I was looking at? Or I was reading some article about X, Y, and Z and recall it. And there was a woman on Twit on Sunday who is a lawyer. And she's like, this is a really bad thing because now it can be subpoenaed and there's all this stuff.
Sure.
You gotta be really careful. So you think about like subpoena power, okay, you get into a lawsuit. I don't know, your friend buys a company that's high profile and you get pulled into some lawsuit. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we want to take your Copilot and start asking your Copilot, what pages were you looking at? Did you read anything?
Right.
You may not remember every conversation you had, everything you had, and it might record your signal because your signal's on your desktop or whatever encrypted thing you have.
Right.
Maybe it's recording some encrypted emails you have. Maybe you've got some stuff you talked about with your lawyer under attorney-client privilege. That's getting put. So she was making very good points about this. Like, this is crazy. And he was like, yeah, I don't get sued, so I don't care. I'm just going to do it. But
for now,
all of it is stored locally on your computer. So you need to have a big enough processor, enough memory, enough storage to have all that occur locally. That's going to be the future of this, which is just like you might have an index of your photos on your phone, not in the cloud, or like the phone, some things are in the cloud encrypted, but other things are on your phone locally.
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a whole series of decisions made of where to keep your large language model and then what you give up for performance, because this also will slow your machine down.
Sure. If you have to keep everything locally. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of trade-offs.
The market that we're talking about is so big, Jason, that another Twist 500 company, Sierra, and we had one of the founders on the show, episode 1989 last August for a Twist 500 interview. They raised another $300 million late last year. So people are really back in the space. There must be just BOCO demand on the enterprise side, because I bet you every company wants to avoid everything that you're saying while also getting all the benefits and cost savings of AI. So to me, it's a great place to build a startup right now. We've been talking a lot about AI-assisted coding, people essentially writing code with AI tools, either helping them write whole applications or just expand their own writing. People talk about the problems this brings up. There's going to be technical debt, there's going to be debugging issues, it's going to be slow. So I've been waiting for a startup that's going to apply kind of the same idea, but not to generate any new code, but to apply AI to clean up existing code to make it faster, better, and with fewer bugs. So Lightrun, it's an Israeli startup. They are doing this and seem to be absolutely crushing it. The news item here is that Lightrun raised a $70 million Series B, bringing their total capital to 110. But the thing that I find most interesting is last year, they debuted what they call essentially AI debugging of production apps, so apps that are live out there in the world. And then in the last year, their revenue grew 4.5x. So my read of the situation, Jason, is that the company found a pretty smart way to use their own model to clean up code often made by AI and therefore have the snake eat its own tail. And it's driving insane growth for the company. I think it's just fantastic. And I hope this means that eventually Chrome will not eat every gigabyte of RAM that I frickin' have. But I'm not entirely sure it'll be that quick. But I've been looking for this company, glad to see it finally here. And I think this is the future. So I'm pretty frickin' stoked.
Yeah, it looks like revenue has been growing 4.5x year over year. A lot of founders ask me, like, how can I like rapidly close my next round of funding? In Silicon Valley, triple, double. That's what, VCs are looking for. So you start at 100K, you go to 300, you go to 900, you go to 2.7, something like that. Then you double it, you go to 6 million. That kind of fast growth solves all problems. You will easily raise money if you're growing double-digit percentages each month. Rule of 72, look it up. If you're growing 10% a month in 7.2 months, you will double.
Mm-hmm.
That's the rule of 72. If you're growing 35% in but 2 months, you will double your revenue. So get your team focused on how much are we growing week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter. In terms of our revenue, that's your North Star. And if you're trying to convince with words and promises and arguing and debating with a VC, all that energy you could be putting into just growing your revenue. Mm-hmm. And then that sale solves all problems. That was something Mark Cuban taught me early on. Sales